Okay, I've been working on this 2004 Honda CR-V for a bit, changing out things that have been causing leaks. Changed out the power steering high pressure line right here, as you've probably seen in a previous video. Well, shortly after that, it looks like the power steering pump is leaking, but I'm going to change out the power steering fluid reservoir. I'm going to also change out the power steering pump. I just changed the belt a couple weeks ago, but I've been losing oil from the power steering pump like crazy. Looks like I'm going to have to pressure wash my driveway due to all the oil that's leaking from here. So I thought I'd go ahead and do the pump and the reservoir. Hopefully it's not one of the other hoses, but we're going to check those when we're down there. But I've seen fluid in this area over here. I've seen fluid just like spraying everywhere, so I'm going to make sure the reservoir is changed and the power steering pump itself is changed. Here are my parts. As you probably figure, I got them off Amazon. It's like the place to go. So didn't have a vice grip for pulling the pulley off, so I go ahead and bought another pulley, power steering fluid for Honda's reservoir and the pump itself. So gonna go ahead and change all these parts out. Plus I got the little O-ring. Not sure if I need that because I just changed out the pressure line, but we'll verify and make sure. First thing I'm going to do is going to take this tensioner and loosen it and take the belt off. Then I'm going to start draining the fluid out of the power steering pump and reservoir, if there's any left. And then we'll go with replacing the power steering pump and taking all the hoses loose. Well, with the tensioner, I put the tensioner tool on there and you pull it towards the front of the vehicle, and just took a screwdriver, long screwdriver like this one here, and use it to move the belt off of the pulley. And when I release the tensioner, it kind of popped this out. So what I'm going to do is take the hoses loose from the reservoir, and then from the power steering pump here. As you can see, we got these little brackets here. Just squeeze those and pull the hoses off. One here, and then there's the one underneath. Once I get those loose, and then I can get to the one underneath on the reservoir. So as we see, I've disconnected the hoses. I removed the power steering reservoir from right here. This piece right here on my new one is facing the wrong way, so I'm gonna have to take this bolt loose and just flip it so it faces up like this one, because that's how the hose comes in and connects on that side. And I bought a new pulley and I bought a new power steering pump, but it doesn't come with the bolt, so I'm gonna have to break the bolt loose here. But the thing is, I won't have to pull the pulley off. Pulley's still good, but I'm gonna go ahead and make it easy on myself since I don't have a vise, and just it's kind of like it's pressed on. So we'll get that put back together, get this taken loose, get the bolt taken out, and we'll get that set in. Still got to take this here loose. All this is pretty easy. So it's these two here, it's the hose here, it's the hose here, and this hose comes over and plugs into the side of the reservoir, and then it's this bolt here, and then there's another bolt down on this side to take the power steering pump loose. So we'll get those two bolts broken and we'll be good. Again, my tensioner tool, give y'all a shot of this. I own a couple of Hondas and own several Hondas over the years, so I'm sure when it's time to get a new car, we'll probably get another Honda. So I bought this tensioner tool and it seems to work perfect. I've changed 2 belts on CR-Vs, and now I'm going to break this here bolt loose, and the big end of the tensioner tool fits this bolt perfectly. what I'm going to do is jam a screwdriver in here, and I'm going to take this bolt off, break it so I can use this bolt on the new power steering pump and pulley. Bought a new pulley, as I said, just because I don't have a vise, and these are usually pressed on by the pressure of them being tightened down, and they're hard to get off. So just thought I'd buy a new pulley, go ahead and save myself the hassle of not having a vise. No room in my garage. Garage is full of junk. I wanted to show you that I flipped this. Instead of this pointing down, it's pointing semi up. Not quite like the one below, but gonna go ahead and use it like that and get the hose to go over it on this side instead of trying to make the hose work its way down. Got the tensioner tool on the bolt, got my screwdriver jammed in there. Basically what I'm going to just do is have this hold the wheel, and I'll just break the bolt loose. Once it's broken, I can screw it out without much issue. Just giving you an idea of how I'm doing it without As you can see, that broke loose pretty easily. So I'm unscrewing the bolt, getting ready to put it on the new one with the pulley, torque it down to whatever the spec is once I get it in place. But just the screwdriver as a wedge, and the tensioner tool works pretty good. Luckily, I bought myself a magnetic tool because I always drop bolts. I can see it down there, I think, and we are going to get it pulled out of there. Here's a telescopic magnet tool that I bought. If you're like me, you might want to get one of these, because I drop a nut or bolt down in the compartment area of the engine somewhere, and it's hard to find. Luckily, I got this, and I spotted it, just dropped it down in there, pulled it right up. This one came from AutoZone. I'll put a link in the video. Just want to make sure that this power steering pump pulley is the same size. I just want to compare it. It's definitely the same size. So going to put it on the new one, and then we'll torque it down once everything is in place. Okay, for the power steering mount bolts, that's a 12 millimeter socket there, and for the hose for the high pressure, the bolts for the high pressure hose, those are 10 millimeter bolts. So far all we've got is a 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter, and the large size for the I'm not exactly sure what size this is. It doesn't say it on the tensioner tool, but the tensioner tool fits it perfectly. The large one. Okay, I wanted to show you where the other bolt for the power steering pump is. It's a little hard to see. It's real dirty and greasy down there, as you can see from my finger, but it's just right here. It's easily accessible. Probably use an extension on it, but I'm not sure if I need one or not, but I'm going to use one. One thing I did find is that clamp down there was very loose. Could very well be a major part of my problem with some of the amount of leakage I'm getting. Did see some coming out of the power steering pump, but I have to imagine that bracket right there being loose had a lot to do with my power steering leak, the amount of leakage I was having. The hose would just twirl around and everything, so I've tightened it down. It's not doing that anymore. Okay, as I say, the bracket down there may have been a major part of the leak, but I've tightened it up. The belt's not moving. The hose is not moving any longer. So I've got to torque this down, tighten this bolt like I did. I will stick a screwdriver in there and use the tensioner tool. But right now, so I've got the belt on, goes over here, down over the alternator pulley, goes under. I think that's the water pump, if I'm not mistaken. And it also goes down and under the tensioner, and it goes back around here over the crank pulley, And like I said, and then it goes down and around the water pump pulley down there at the very, very bottom. Just have to make sure everything looks like it's good on there. So the crank pulley looks good. As you can see, there's a lot of oil and grease. It looks good on the water pump pulley right there. So I'm gonna tighten everything back up, put my hoses back on, and fill the reservoir, and then we're gonna ride for a couple days and see if we got any leaks. So this black cover here, I'm gonna pull this off. That's to protect the high pressure hose. So we'll remove it, and then I get my high pressure hose and put it back in place. I kept it covered in some paper rags to prevent any leaks and have any harm done to it. So these are 10 millimeters. So I said the ones below are 12 millimeters. This one here, it's a 10 millimeter also. And like I said, I don't know what size the pulley nut was, but it does fit the large tensioner bolt. So get all those things tightened up. Then I'm going to put my reservoir back in place. I've got to make this hose here fit here, because although they say this is an exact duplicate, the settings here, they're kind of winged towards the pulley. On the original, they're kind of winged back away from the pulley. So everything's back in place. So got a new reservoir tank. The hoses are the same. Tighten that clamp down in there, right down there, as it was probably giving me a majority of the problem. But I guess it never hurts on a 15-year-old vehicle to have a new power steering pump. I did see some leakage up in here on the old pump, where it was leaking in a crease like right up in here. The old pump was leaking. Plus, I think down there, as I said many times already, that was probably a big part of my problem. So the hoses are tightened down, and as I said, the only difference here was the way this used to sit up was sitting up like this, so this hose would come over and slide down, but now it comes back and I had to force it into this angle right here. But looks like everything is clear of the pulleys and everything. Gonna fill my reservoir up to the exact level before I get everything cranked up and everything. I'm gonna spray all of this degreaser off of here, because as you know and as you can tell, there's oil everywhere. A lot of this is degreaser from spraying it in here and running off, but just a big old mess. Hopefully it won't have this mess again once it's clean. Hope you can hear me. Looks like the belt's running fine. Everything looks in place good. Power steering pump, I filled it. I'm going to do the lock-to-lock on the wheels. Then I'm going to take it for a drive, and we'll monitor it for a few days to see if it's leaking anymore. But hopefully with everything I did, and the hose down there in the bottom, the low pressure hose that comes up right here, hopefully that hose will not leak anymore, because there's a lot of oil around it down there where it connects right in there. And there's the clamp right there, right in front of the nut for the pulley. So turn it lock to lock and fill it up with more power steering fluid. Make sure we get all the bubbles out, and we should be good.